Okay, 33. And oh yes, I had asked questions, right? Anybody got answers for those questions? Let me see who are present. I can ask somebody. Hmm. Anybody wants to volunteer for 33? First, what was the question, and then what do you think was the answer to it? Keshav, yes, tell me.
So the question was basically Krishna was saying that one second, let me just read. It says Krishna encourages sense control and discipline throughout the Gita. So why does he say in 3.33 that repression is ineffective? So in the
Okay, just
purport,
give me a second, Keshav. Let me just do this then. Let's quickly read 33, and then we can go over what your answer is. So this is, even a man of knowledge acts according to his own nature. For everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can repression accomplish? Yes. Now go ahead, Keshav. Tell me what do you think? Why is Krishna asking us to not repress?
well, in the purport, Prabhupada is giving us the answer because
Hmm.
he's saying all that all these people, like material people, like if you wanna actually control your senses, you need to do Krishna consciousness because simply by just theoretically just saying, oh, I'm not gonna do it, I'm gonna control, that won't happen because the Maya and the three modes of material nature are very strong. So they will just force you. So unless you do uh, Krishna consciousness is the real method, and like pretending that you're gonna be able to control is artificial. And there are even people that are like spiritual, and they act like they're very realized and they can control their senses, but then later when no one's watching, they don't control their senses because they're not doing Krishna consciousness. So just by fighting with their mind, that won't help. You need the help of Krishna consciousness to control your senses.
Okay. So you're saying that Krishna is asking, he's asking to not repress because unless you're doing Krishna consciousness, this doesn't make sense for repression. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and it won't work if we do it
Okay.
without Krishna
Okay.
consciousness.
Okay. What else? Somebody else wants to add on? Yes, Chulan Yadav.
Yeah, I also wanted to add that it's true that in the beginning we won't be able to repress, but rather than just repressing whatever our bad karma or whatever our bad habits are, is better to just understand where we are going wrong and eventually asking like for Krishna's help, devotees help. And that's what we also like spoke about, the three problems that halt bhakti. We have to understand where our issues are and we have to work on them. And eventually, when we do it with the help of Krishna and devotees, we will be able to control our senses. Just blindly repressing it will not help.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Who else? I see two participants raised hands. Who are those two?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I had my
Yes,
hand raised. Yeah,
go.
Prabhuji. So I wanted to add to Mataji that also, just continuously, like we came in like 5 years ago, right? And you
Mm.
you do see changes. So not to give up and keep going, no matter what. I mean, obstacles will come, right? But the discipline is the fact that you continue to keep pushing, and
Okay.
that's where the control comes in, that you're not to give up, basically.
Okay. Okay. Yes, those all the answers are correct. I would probably narrow it down a bit and give Sansa, but I know there was another hand raised. Who was that? Deepthi,
Yeah,
was
it
that you?
was me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I would like to add here, Krishna pointing out that though one is doing self-control and discipline, it's not enough because or there's repression. If you're repressing, it's not going to be working. We have to understand that repression is something which we are doing forcibly. We're trying to suppress our senses and desires without any inner transformation. So we are basically like restraining our senses from dwelling on these sense objects, but forcibly. And that is not going to work because we read it in chapter 2. The reason being repression does not destroy the desires. And we read that even if one of the senses gets disturbed or deviated, we fall back into the same loop. So that's the way we can do this is we need to repress, yes, but more importantly, as you pointed out, discipline, as Matajis were saying, that we have to be disciplined and perform our actions as sacrifice, which would purify our desires instead of suppressing it. And that would steadily lead us to detachment and thus better control and give us higher taste.
Okay, that's good. Let me just pull up my slides. Give me a second. So there are two things which, when we look at the verse, let's look at the verse quickly. Krishna is using the word prakriti. Okay? So prakritir jnanavan api prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karikshati. And Prabhupada is translating one of those prakriti as modes of nature and the other prakriti as nature. He's not calling it modes of nature. Okay? So, so now, let me show my slide. I think I had there. There are two things which, I'm not sharing my slide. Give me a second. So there are two things that you have to look at. Prakriti. So what is Prakriti? Prakriti basically means it's our, it's my nature, right? For example, people have Brahmanical natures. Some people have Kshatriya natures, right? So that's your nature. So Prakriti, that's Prakriti. That's not about your lust, anger, greed, illusion, pride, envy, those things. Those are not your Prakriti. Okay, that's called as Vasana. So now let's look at, I think, yes, I've listed here. So Prakriti is our psychophysical nature. You can harmonize it with Dharma. A Brahman can act in Dharma, a Kshatriya can also act in. And that's a long-standing conditioning of the Gunas. Okay, so it's neutral by itself. A Brahmana can be good or bad. That's something, that's the way, well, that's what it means by neutral. So if I give you in a more simpler terms, Prakriti is our innate nature. It's what we are hardwired to do, as they say, right? Baseline nature. And so, as I put here, so there are tendencies: teaching tendency, leadership tendency. Some people have an analytical nature. Some people are artists, right? Some people are grhastas. They cannot be brahmacharis or sannyasis. That's an inclination, and there is a provision to be in a grhasta ashram. Krishna accepts that, and he even points that out in the 7th chapter. So those are all your prakriti. That's something you're not supposed to give up. Okay? However, what's supposed to be give up, so that's why Krishna is saying, what's the use of repressing it? So when he's talking about repression, he's talking about our prakriti. So harmonizable versus what is not harmonizable, right? So as I said, Brahman, he will act intellectually. That's innate to the soul when embodied. This is not sinful in itself. What's sinful is, it's called vasana. So there's a difference between the word prakriti and vasana. So Vasana is what I was referring to as your lust, anger, greed, illusion, pride, right? In Hindi we say Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Moh, Maya, Matsarya. Your Brahmanical Kshatriya tendency is generated by the contact of the soul by the body. And it is meant to be dovetailed, not suppressed. Okay. However, all these qualities, Varna, like a Brahman quality, a Shudra, a Kshatriya quality, they can be infected by material desires. They all need regulations. Okay. So so you cannot repress those qualities, and you cannot even exchange them. Like for example, if a Shudra wants to live like a Brahman, they will be very little, he will not be respected, right? Because Brahman has some very specific qualities like being clean, regulated, waking up early, studying Shastra and all that. That might be very hard for a Shudra mentality person to execute, right? But the Shudra can be gradually elevated by doing duty in the Varnashrama system, and he can go up to the level of Brahman. So that's the difference that we all have to understand: Prakriti and Vasana. Right? So Prakriti not to be given up, Vasana can be given up. Oh, sorry, it should be suppressed, but not given up, suppressed. So that's the difference that Krishna is talking here. So any conditioned impulse that are driven by cravings and aversion, that is your Vasana, our Vasana. But something that is my inherent nature. If I have a nature of a teacher, and if somebody puts me into, let's say, a job of a Kshatriya or a businessman, like a Vaishya, I will fail miserably there because that is not my innate nature. That is not my Prakriti. However, wherever I am, either a Brahman or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya, I can be infected by vasanas. So what Krishna is asking here, not suppress, is our Prakriti. Keep that in mind. Okay. So, and Prabhupada in the purport tells us here, no one should suddenly give up his prescribed duties and become a so-called yogi or transcendentalist artificially. Right? Here, Prabhupada means yogi means like, just leaving everything. So Prabhupada is saying you should not leave everything unless you become a pure devotee. A pure devotee can live in any mode. That's for a pure devotee, there is no difference. Right? Mahaprabhu said, right? Kibe vipra, kibe nyasi, shudra ki ninaya, ye Krishna tattva vete, se guru haya. That even Shudra can become a guru by understanding Krishna consciousness. So Shudra becomes a devotee. He may continue some of his duty, but then he's beyond all that now. Okay. So there are many so-called spiritualists who outwardly pose as advanced in science, but inwardly or privately are completely under particular modes of nature which they are unable to surpass. Right? So inwardly or privately, right? So what is the difference? Inwardly means they don't express to anyone. Privately means that they express it, but in private. They have sinful desires that they suppress in heart and keep it hidden from public view. So that's what Prabhupada is talking here about. So-called spiritualists. So we don't have to become like that also. So it is better to practice yoga, be situated in one's nature, and offer fruits to Krishna and practice bhakti. Right. So, and some organizations, they distort this verse and say nigraha kim karishati as the most important part. Oh, what's the use of suppressing? They don't want to suppress anything. They don't want to suppress their desires. So those people are pseudo-spiritualists, materialists in a garb of spiritualists. Right? If this was the mandate that we should not suppress our all these desires, then why would Arjun have any apprehension in this question? His questions were perfect then. Why would Krishna say evam buddhe param buddhava samsthabhyam atmanam jahi shutrav mahabaho kama rupa durashadam? That kama durashadam, that's dura, that's bad. So controlling, he's telling them control. Later on in the verses we will see Krishna is asking him to control them. Right? So it's not a license for unrestricted sense enjoyment. Right? So Arjun has a Kshatriya duty. He has to act as a Kshatriya. So he cannot repress that. Right? So that's something that you have to keep in mind. So now the question could come: how to know whether it's my prakriti or vasana? Right? And it's not that hard. You can ask some basic questions to yourself. You can do like a diagnostic test on yourself, right? First thing is steadiness. Is that particular activity or quality of yours stable over time? Like, for example, years, right? So generally, if something has been there, a tendency has been existing for a long time, that's your prakriti. But if it comes and goes, it's vasana. That's one thing. Second thing to understand whether it's prakriti or vasana is how does it react to discipline? Does this particular tendency of yours survive regulation, authority, responsibility? Then it's prakriti. Because vasana by itself, it hates rules and regulations. Yeah, if you that's the problem with vasana. If you tell your mind, oh no, I'm not going to indulge in this sense desire now, your mind will go crazy. It will push you. No, we want to do it right now. No, so that's a reaction to discipline. Then another thing you can ask yourself: what effect does it have on your consciousness? Does it leave you guilty? Does it leave you dissatisfied, more restless? Then it's vasana. But if it leaves you steady, then it's your prakriti. So these are some ways by which we can easily understand whether it's prakriti or vasana, right? So now we understand repression pushes vasana underground. When you push the vasana, you all must have noticed it. When you keep pushing one of your desires, it makes it stronger. It creates hypocrisy, right? So that's what Prabhupada is warning us against. No artificial renunciation, no sudden rejection of duties. So that's what is to be understood here. Okay, let's move on to 34. Yes, Sandeep Prabhu.
Prabhuji, is it correct to say that your inherent desire, wherever, which keeps taking to a certain, consciousness is what your nature is, or your varna? So, in other words, let's say if I'm I work, for example, right? So I'm really a Shudra, like anybody who works as a Shudra, right? But if I have a inclination that keeps telling me, hey, you know what? No, you're not happy here. You have to do some business. In other words, is my real nature actually being of Vaishya, and I'm just that, so is desire any reflection of your nature or Varna?
Yeah, so as I said, how you can find it out. How does it affect your consciousness? Let's say you saying that, oh, I'm a Shudra, I have a Shudra mindset. But your desire is to get into business, a Vaishya. When you get into that Vaishya state, how does it affect your consciousness? Does it make you more dissatisfied? Does it make you more restless? That's what I was saying. If it does, then that's not your prakriti. Because your prakriti should make you more satisfied, but may leave you more steady. So yes, you can test and see how does it affect your consciousness. And then, yes, when you become a Vaishya, you will have certain disciplines to follow, right? Vaishyas, they have a business, and they're maintaining business. Probably you have to go early to your business, like I don't know, opening your business or whatever it may be. You need a certain amount of discipline. Does that desire of doing a business, does it keep you in does that discipline work for you? Does it make you happy? Or not even happy? Does that tendency to do business survive in that regulative environment? If it does, then that's your nature, yes. And more importantly, another way to look at your prakriti is, can I offer it to Krishna? Is it harmonizable with my bhakti? Because vasanas, as Prabhupada is saying, inward and private. Vasanas are mostly secret. They're kept secret. We don't show our sense, right? I mentioned this, right? We all live three lives. Public, personal, and private. Public is what the whole world sees. Personal is what your family members see. Private is which you alone see, nobody else sees. So our vasanas, they mostly live in the private zone. But our Prakriti lives everywhere, even in the public domain, in the personal domain, in the private domain, because you really like doing it. That's your nature. So those are some ways by which you can understand that.
That makes sense, Prabhuji.
Okay. 34. There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Now here Krishna is again, see, that's the difference I was talking about. In the earlier verse, Krishna is talking about Prakriti, your nature. Here he's talking about vasanas, which are attachments and aversions, which are pertaining to senses and their sense objects. That's the vasana. My senses desiring good food to eat, or whatever those senses may be. That's my vasana. Right? And Krishna is saying one should not come under the control of that thing. Right? So that's the word in the Indriya says here. Indriya say means sense objects. Right. So yes. So when our senses interact with the sense objects, that's where attachment and aversion come. Attachment means you like something. Aversion means you don't like something. So Krishna is asking us not to come under their control. These are enemies. Right? So in the word Krishna is using here is paripanthino. So many of you might know pantha is path, right? And pari is thieves. So paripantha, they're robbers on the path of your bhakti, on your way to your dharma. They steal away your capacity to live according to dharma. Right? So immediately after where Krishna is saying control cannot repress, here he's saying don't succumb to the nature. So here Krishna is not talking about Prakriti, he's talking about Vasana. One has to regulate. Expression with regulation. Like marriage. Krishna says that. Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamoshmi bhartarshava. That which when we have a marriage life, and if it is according to the rules and regulations of dharma, it's perfect. Krishna is accepting that. He's saying that's the dharma. I am that relationship, right? So yeah. So now that's what it is. Now Prabhupada is saying those who are in Krishna conscious are naturally reluctant to engage in material sense gratification, right? Because they have experienced a higher taste. Why should I lose the opportunity of a higher taste by getting entangled in these vasanas? And then Prabhupada is saying, he's bringing out the concept of sex enjoyment. Sex enjoyment is a necessity for the conditioned soul, and sex enjoyment is allowed under the license of marriage ties, right? According to scriptural injunctions, one is forbidden to engage in sex relationships with any other woman other than one's wife. All other women are to be considered as one's mother. So, regulating it, that's what it's saying, right? So, that's what this Prabhupada is highlighting here. So, so yes, vasanas being not being to regulate the vasanas. That's what is being highlighted here. As long as the material body is there, the necessities of material body are allowed, but under rules and regulations, and yet we should not rely upon the control of such allowances, right? Don't use this freedom given, don't misuse the freedom that's been given to us. That's what Prabhupada is telling us. Yes, we have been given some allowances, don't misuse them. That's what Prabhupada is asking us, right? So, so yeah. So how to give up our vasana properly? Okay. One thing, not by suppression. That's right. So that's something. But by replacement and purification. That's what Prabhupada is telling us. It was that. Those who are in Krishna conscious are naturally reluctant because they have tasted higher. By replacement and purifying ourselves. We have to kind of take a stand against our vasana. However, that by taking a stand against the vasana, we will not be able to cure or completely get eliminated. To completely eliminate it, we have to replace it with something higher and purify ourselves. And that happens when you engage yourself in regulated sadhana. Vasana, you can feel that it comes up in idle times. For example, or you think, oh, I have this 30-minute gap. Let me just go on my phone and scroll and look at some shorts and reels. So when those gaps come and we have not structured anything or not thought of anything what I'm going to do in that gap, my mind jumps into it and starts misusing it. It's that vasana comes and grasps that empty space. A strong sadhana, it will weaken vasana. It will give you a higher taste, right? And then engage prakriti in service, right? When I say you can use your prakriti, whether it's a brahman or a kshatriya or a vaishya, you can use all that in bhakti related activities. Then the mind becomes satisfied, and there is no need for repressing the vasana unnecessarily. Most importantly, accept guidance. Vasana hates authority, whereas a prakriti, it flourishes under guidance. Right? Because vasana, you cannot show it openly because you do it in secret. So when you are answerable to somebody, then that vasana kind of just diminishes because there's somebody looking at you. There's somebody looking at you, whatever you're doing, and he or she is tracking it or whatever. You are answerable to somebody. That's the way we can control these. Yeah. Okay. One thing Prabhupada is highlighting in the end here: no one should try to be detached from Krishna consciousness at any stage of life. The whole purpose of detachment from all kinds of sense enjoyment is ultimately to become situated on the platform of Krishna consciousness. Right? Prabhupada is saying you don't be detached from Krishna consciousness. So we cannot be detached from Krishna. Purpose of bhakti is not to develop detachment from the world, but to develop attachment to Krishna. Detachment is not a top priority. Attachment to Krishna is the top priority. So don't be too much conscious and be too much troubled by material attachments. Our focus should be all the time on attachment to Krishna. Yes, we all have guilt, but use that guilt only to keep yourself humble and honest. Don't let that guilt overpower your bhakti and you might start feeling, oh, I'm useless, nothing to do, my God, I cannot do bhakti, I can't even control my senses. No, guilt is only one of the ways by which Maya comes and fools us. Okay, so that's what Prabhupada is highlighting here. Yes, detachment is necessary, but don't make the top priority. Make that as a top priority. Don't focus on darkness, but focus on switching on the light. Okay. Yes, Atyalvi Mata, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, Prabhuji. So does Maya also throw vasana at us, to deter us? Or
so the way we look at Maya is, as Prabhupada has explained us, Maya is a quality control manager appointed by Krishna. Krishna knows that we as human beings are full of defects and we have a propensity to cheat. One day I might say, when I'm really frustrated with life, I might say, Krishna, I just want you. Next day things become good. I'm good. No, Krishna, I don't want you. I want to enjoy here. So Krishna puts a quality control inspector to test us and just be sure that we are fully ready to come back home, back to Godhead. So Maya is not there as our enemy. Actually, the Maya is there to help us progress more steadily and focusedly towards bhakti. That's the purpose of Maya. So yes, Maya could send something to you. However, the purpose is not to distract you from bhakti. The purpose is to test you, to make you stronger. For example, when a teacher gives us a multiple choice question, there are 5 choices. The purpose of the teacher is not to confuse you. The purpose of the teacher in giving you a multiple choice question is to strengthen your decision on selecting the right answer. After seeing the 4 wrong ones, you say, no, this is the right answer. And so even the 4 ones might seem attractive, you still select the right. Same thing is with Maya. Did that help you, Matri?
Yes, Prabhuji, thank you. One more question, Prabhuji. So So is Maya coming and, getting in our thoughts? Like, you know, last thing you want to do is think about this, that, and the other when you're doing puja. But of course, these silly, stupid thoughts, they come in your mind, you know. I mean, I guess one way we fight this in the house is by having Krishna music playing in the background. So even when I'm doing seva, my DT worship in the morning, at least I have that going in my mind to get rid of all of that negative thoughts. Um, so I mean, what is the reason for all these negative thoughts to come in your mind when you're doing bhakti? I mean,
One attitude that I would suggest, Mataji, and which, not that I have perfected it, but I try to bring, don't blame anybody else for whatever you're going through. We all have to take responsibility of it. Whatever is coming to me, my thoughts which are not appropriate, all the misery that's coming in my life, or even the good things that are coming in my life. Just don't try to ascribe somebody else as the reason for that. Just take responsibility and keep doing your duty. That is all coming because of my karma. So the reason I'm saying this, if you start putting the blame on Maya and saying, oh, Maya is bringing this into my life, then you are automatically ascribing Maya as the responsible person. But that's not what Krishna teaches us. He's saying that we have the capacity to change ourselves. The right way to do that is to learn to take responsibility of whatever is happening to us as our karma. That's what Brahma says in 10th canto, 14th chapter, verse number 8. Tatte anukampam susamikshamano bhunjanevatra kritam vipakam vidvag bapurbi vidadhan namaste jive tayo mukti pade sadaya bhak. That when somebody just accepts whatever is coming to them as a reaction to their own karma and just keeps going through, just keeps doing bhakti despite whatever is coming to them, that person becomes an heir to the kingdom of God. He becomes eligible to enter the kingdom of God. So I'm just saying this so that you don't ascribe Maya as the problem, as the problem maker. So just take responsibility and understand, okay, this is all because of my previous karmas. I'll just tolerate them and I'll keep moving forward in my bhakti. At the same time, trying your best to control your senses as much as you can, but focusing on the higher goal of connecting with Krishna.
okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
35. So it is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though faultily, than another's duties perfectly. Distraction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duty, for to follow another's path is dangerous. What was the question for this one? Can somebody please read me the question? I don't have it in front of me. For verse number 35. Anybody has it? Andy?
Yeah, Prabhuji.
Why
Yes,
does
please.
Krishna say in 335 that even imperfect execution of one's own duty is superior to perfectly performing another's duty? What danger arises when a devotee imitates another's nature or ashrama?
Okay, yes. Anybody has an answer for this? Somebody who has not talked till yet. Let me see who all are present. I'll just pick up people. Saina, you there?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Do you think you have an answer to this question? Did you
I
get a
didn't hear
chance?
the last part of the question. Can you repeat it, Prabhuji?
Can somebody repeat the last part of the question for Saina?
Yes, just 1 second. What dangers arises when a devotee imitates another's nature or ashrama?
I think that the danger is that a devotee is kind of, in a way, risking his own bhakti, because when you try to imitate somebody else's ashrama, it's not according to like your guna, or what like Prabhuji was talking about with vasana. Like it's not according to like what your like what suits you, and so you're not going to progress in bhakti naturally or like the way you should.
So you're saying that because it's not in our prakriti, we should not do others' duty because we will not be able to do it well because it's not in our nature to do that job, that kind of a task.
Yeah.
Anybody else has an answer? Did they look at something? Thank you, Saina. Who's there? Who else is there?
May I say something?
Yes, please.
Okay. Lord Krishna tells Arjun here that it's better to do your own duty than like better to do your duty imperfectly than doing someone else's perfectly. So just do your own duty. Like your duty is to fight and not to like renounce the fighting.
Okay. Yes, Achyuta.
Rashi, I was thinking like duty is more like a medicine prescribed by a physician. So basically, every individual has different medicine for their particular like disease. So duty is also like that. So basically, we should be performing, even though we may be able to perform another person's duty perfectly. It may not work event for our own for our purification.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's look at this verse. Let's go through it. So there are two things that Krishna is mentioning in here. One is swadharma. Swadharma is one's own duty. Paradharma is somebody else's duty. Right? So that's the difference Krishna is talking. So he's talking about swadharma, paradharma, swadharma, paradharma in the 4 lines of that verse. So why not to do others' duty? Okay. So what, and I think many of you have briefly touched on that. You can imitate somebody's activities, but you cannot imitate somebody's inner capacity. Okay. As we were just talking about business, right? Somebody is good at doing business. Once I was on the book table in the temple, and there was this Prabhuji standing beside me, and somebody wanted a book, and he was on the prasadam, like he was giving some of the sweets and us. So somebody gave him a $10 bill and just took one of those, which is $5, and then he said, "Oh, I don't have change. Why don't you take another one?" So the other person said, "Okay, fine, I'll take another one." I was just thinking, and I was very amazed, and I was really appreciating that Prabhuji, that that's a mindset that I never will have. I will go running across a temple and look for a change for $10 instead of asking this person to take another one because I don't have change. So that's an inner capacity. I could have imitated the activity of standing on that place and then giving out those sweets, but I can never imitate that inner capacity, right? So the example that I can give you, like if you look at it, there are 2 brothers in a village. There's Ram and Shyam, okay, and Ram is a very sattvic person, and he becomes a teacher. And now Shyam was very passionate and bold, and he goes to become an army guy. He goes and joins the army. They were twins, right? And they both were happy in those positions. One day they thought of changing their roles. And they were very fascinated. Let me see how Ramu lives his life. And Ram was thinking, let me see how Shyam is living his life, and so forth. So when Ram, who was a very sattvic person, a calm, he was really shocked when he saw the army life. Cold showers, early morning parades, and whatnot. On the other hand, Shyam, who was very passionate and very like a strong guy, so if any other child would make a small mistake, he would severely punish them. That created a lot of stress in the school. Parents didn't want to send their kids to the school. So that was the problem. So their natures were very different to each other, right? So a devotee, let's say he's naturally introverted and reflective and steady. But if you ask him to do a job that requires to be socially energized and bold and outgoing, it won't work. So that's one reason why we should not do others' duty. Secondly, when we try to do other people's duty, you might be able to execute when things are going fine. However, under pressure, that particular borrowed prakriti will collapse, because pressure reveals truth. Right? So if I have a nature as a teacher, let's say, I can be under pressure and still do a good job. But if I try to do somebody else's job under pressure, I'll collapse. That's what happens. Right? For example, some people like to take up leadership roles, and they say, oh, if I take a leadership role, people will start appreciating more. Oh, this guy must be really, very high in devotional practices, because that's why he's been put on this leadership role. But when stress comes, that person might start becoming very defensive, irritable, spiritually dry, and whatnot. Many of Prabhupada's disciples, they fell down because they decreased their sadhana to compensate for the prakriti they were trying to adopt. But Prabhupada never said that. He said, you have to do your sadhana strong. Then only you'll be able to do your service better. But they forgot that first part of doing sadhana strong, and they were trying to do services more in a material mindset. And that's why they fell down. So that comes to the next point. When we do somebody else's duty, we start serving the role rather than serving Krishna. So you'll have an image to maintain. You become afraid of being exposed. So that's why you will start serving yourself. You'll forget Krishna. Right? So those things happen when we try to take up somebody else's prakriti. Right? And so those are some points by which we can understand why not to do sadhana's duty. And Prabhupada is giving an example of Kshatriya, of Vishwamitra, who later acted as a Brahman. Parshuram was a Brahman, but later acted as a Kshatriya. Being transcendentally situated, they could do so. But as long as we are on a material platform, he must perform his duties according to the modes of material nature. Yes, Sandeep.
So, Prabhu, where does the ambition fit in here? Because everybody has ambitions, right? To be a better version of themselves. So if I'm in a certain level, I want to go to the next one. And when I reach there, I want to go to the next one, right?
Yeah.
And okay, I understand that, okay, probably if you're too materialistic, that's not great, in that sense. But if you're trying to do it in a spiritual way, for example, what's wrong with it? Like if you.
So once again, your ambition is a desire. It's a kind of a desire. And Krishna is teaching us, you learn to dovetail those desires for Krishna's purpose. Let's say you want to be rich. No problem. It's good to be rich. Our movement has so many millionaires and billionaires. However, if you look at their lifestyle, they live a very simple lifestyle. And they use a lot of it for Krishna's service. So ambition is not bad. However, what intention are you bringing behind that ambition is what's going to make it good or bad for your bhakti practices. Recently, you all might have heard there is this billionaire, Ashish Agarwal.
No, Prabhu, no.
No, he was in news recently. His son died recently. He's a very rich guy.
Prabhuji, Anil Agarwal, I think.
Anil Agarwal.
Energy, right? Which is 5-hour energy guy. I think he launched 5-hour energy, I guess.
No. He deals in metals, I think, zinc and aluminum.
Okay.
So you can just look him up. Anil Agarwal. His son, he was 50, I think, and recently his son died. That's how I got to know him. My wife was showing me about that person. But when I saw him, and I saw, he is a billionaire, right? He's rich. However, he is also understood that how my richness is not of any use if I don't use it for Krishna's service. So he's an integral part of the ISKCON Juhu temple. He knows, I'm assuming he also knows His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj and many of Maharaj's disciples who are managing there. So he's using a lot for Krishna's service. When he lost his son, instead of becoming and just saying all this is nonsense, he came and he's praying more deeply in the temple now. Because his intention might be in the beginning, it might have been that earning money, but later on his intentions were purified. And now he has aligned them towards bhakti. So whatever is happening to him, it is very, very sorrowful. I can barely imagine what sorrow he's going through. But he's using it. He's trying to look at it from a bhakti perspective. So just to reiterate, ambition is not a problem. The intention behind the ambition is a problem.
Okay.
Okay. Did that make sense, bro?
Yeah, Prabhu. I guess the intention is more important. Like,
Yeah.
not as much as like trying to do somebody else's dharma. I mean, as long as that somebody else's dharma is aligned
No,
with
so
Krishna consciousness.
one thing, always do your own dharma. Don't do anybody else's dharma. Even while you're doing your own dharma, you might become ambitious, but try to see what is the intention behind those ambitions, right? For example, you have come in a leadership. Let's say you have been assigned to collect funds for the temple. You have to think from that perspective now. Hey, where am I going to get funds from for this next festival? How am I going to collect funds? You will be thinking about money. So you will be very much like a businessman who's sitting in the market and thinking about money 24/7. However, your thinking of money and that person's thinking of money is extremely different because you are doing it for Krishna's service. So that ambition of collecting money is not bad. It's what intention you're doing it with.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. 36. Now here the gear changes. Now Arjun is asking a question, and the rest of the verses Krishna is going to answer them. So there are 43 verses in this chapter. We are at 36. So Arjun asks this question: O descendant of Vrishni, by what is one impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? So in earlier section, Krishna told us follow dharma. But sometimes situation comes where we act against Shastras, not in the right way, right? We all fall prey to our desires. Well, at least I cannot say about you, but I fall prey to my desires. And it's unwillingly. I can't do it. I can't control it, right? So Arjuna is asking, what is that? Atha kena prayuktoyam, right? Why are we being impelled? What is that is impelling us? That's what his question is. So papam charati, the word he's using is papam charati purusha. Papam, sins. Why are we impelled to do sinful activity? Right? So let's look at the word pap. Okay, what does pap mean? Pap is nothing but where we deliberately disobey the laws of God. Right? There's a constitutional arrangement in this universe. When we don't follow that, that becomes pap. And we have read in the past, pap, it leads to 4 things. There is prarabdha karma, aprarabdha, bija, and kuta. So if I tell you in simple terms, your manifest reactions, what you are suffering right now, when one smokes, his teeth become yellow, lips become black. No, the reaction is just manifest right there. Aprarabdha is unmanifest. Somebody has stolen something, let's say, but then they haven't yet been caught by police. So it's not yet unmanifest, it will manifest. Bija is a sinful desire, right? We again and again desire to do an activity. And kuta is a tendency. It's inherent, it's not yet expressed itself. It's deep down there. The moment we get a chance, it'll express itself, or the desire will come. So that's what it's all pap. That's what pap leads to. Right? So, so that's what Arjun is asking, that why is it happening? Like, where is it coming from? Right? Aprarabdha phalam papam kutam bhijam phalonmukam. That's the verse where it's saying. So yeah, so these 4 things come. And so Arjun is asking, okay, why are we impelled to do these sinful activities? Where are they coming from? Basically, that's what Arjun is asking. And now Krishna gives a very clear-cut answer. He says, Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjun, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. Krishna has given a very clear-cut answer. Krishna quickly identifies the enemy. Calm transforms to anger. So when your desire gets fulfilled, it transforms to a much deeper desire, lobh. Right? That's where the word lobh comes from. Lobh means intense desire. So there could be a desire which is not very intense, but when it gets fulfilled, you desire more. Oh, this was fun. Let me have more of it. And when it is not fulfilled, it turns to anger, right? And why does it turn into anger? Because material world is designed in that way, that it doesn't fulfill our desires. It is designed that way because this is not our permanent home, right? But unfortunately, I keep trying to enjoy, and then it leads me to anger. You can live in a hotel room for a day or two, but that cannot replace your home. So, so Krishna knows exactly how to give out various circumstances in our life so that we all become sensitized to the fact that this world is not a place for me to live in. Everything happening around us is Krishna's plan to specifically bring us to that point. That is why, as I was earlier saying, we should always look everything coming to us as Krishna's mercy. Nobody is out there to hurt me. Nobody is doing wrong to me. No guilt, no victim mentality. Everything is coming as Krishna's plan to put me in a position where I can understand that this place is not for me. Right? So we are trying to be in harmony with the world, which I can never be in harmony. And then there's this verse that Krishna used. I really like that verse, is Mahashano. So Mahashano means it's an all-devouring enemy. It's a very nice word. Yes, Julania.
Prabhu, when you were talking about don't blame anyone, I remembered Guru Maharaj's lecture on Kaliya Mardan, and he was saying that when Krishna was like dancing on his head, every time he would like tap, little bit of poison would come out from each head. So he was saying that sometimes we also get little bit of tap to us in forms of like whatever we are suffering, and that's basically so the poison can come out.
Yes, that's the whole purpose. Krishna is tapping on our head so that all that poison, and the biggest poison is, I think this place is for me. It's meant for me to enjoy. That's the biggest poison we all are going through. And Krishna keeps tapping till all that poison doesn't come out and understand this place is not a place meant for me. It's not a decent place to live in. So, yes, that's a very good, thank you for that analogy. So, yes, the word Mahashano means all devouring. All devouring means it doesn't leave anybody. No one is happy in this world. Right? You all must have seen that quote from Jim Carrey, this big famous comedian. He said that, I wish everybody becomes a millionaire and a billionaire so that they can know that there is no happiness there. Everybody thinks, oh, these guys must be so happy. No, nobody is happy. Okay? So Krishna is giving emphasis that please know that this desire, lust, is not your friend. Right? Many times we watch movies and TV shows where these Kama and Krodha might be shown as heroic, an angry hero, right? That's what makes kids violent from a young age. And that's a gift of the modern society. So yeah, but then no, Kama is not good. Krishna is saying it's your enemy. It's a Mahasana, right? And we can control our calm by keeping all our desires subservient to our service, right? So just keep that in mind. Yes. Not going out of the regulations. If you all have been to bowling, right? When you go for bowling, there is that, what do you call that? I don't know. That railing comes up for kids, right? So that the ball doesn't go off. So that's a guardrail. Similarly, we all have guardrails in our life, which is the rules and regulations that we follow that prevent us from falling off the path, falling trap to Kama and Krodha. That's the purpose, right? So enjoy prescribed pleasures and do it under regulation. Simple as that. That is the way to deal with Kama. So, and the interesting part of bhakti is you can use everything for Krishna's service. You might go to other yoga practices and they'll ask you to curb things. Here, Krishna doesn't ask us to curb it. He says, you use everything for my service. Krishna Bhakti. Prabhupada was very ambitious. He came here. He probably must have dealt with billions of dollars in his 10 years of living in United States, right? So it was all Kama Krishna Karmapane. He was offering everything to Krishna. So Krishna Bhakti Rasa Bhavita Mati Kriyatam Kuto Api Labhyate Tatra Lolyam Api Mulyam Janam Koti Sukriti Nasa Labhyate. Krishna, there's a verse in Chaitanya Charitamrita which said that you have to have intense greed to become a devotee, to get Krishna mercy. So you can use your lust and greed in that aspect. So after warning Arjun, now Krishna takes up another level. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, the living entity is similarly covered by different degrees of lust, right? The different degrees of covering, right? So now what Krishna has been doing, if you see, Arjun asks, why do I do this? Why am I doing this as if being forced? Krishna tells him it's lust. Okay, it's lust, Arjun, that's the problem. You have lust. Then Krishna, the next one is saying, yeah, you might think, oh, one person seems more lusty than the other. Okay, yes, that's a difference on the level of consciousness. That's the answer Krishna is giving here, right? So fire covered by smoke. Now let's look at these individually. This is more like in a mode of goodness. And Prabhupada explains this in the purport. So why is it in a mode of goodness? Like I'm giving you, it's an analogy. This verse is an analogy. Okay. So the fire covered by smoke is an analogy for a mode of goodness. Why? Because when the fire is covered by smoke, you can still see the fire now and then. So your spiritual nature is still visible. There is some inclination to be God conscious, right? There's a desire to come out of jail, but still I keep making mistakes. So that's what is a fire covered by smoke. Mirror covered by dust, it's a mode of passion. Our spiritual nature is covered. God consciousness cannot be seen. I know I'm in a prison, but I don't want to get out of it. Lastly, embryo covered by the womb, in the womb. That's a mode of ignorance. It's very difficult to see. It's the thickest of the covering. The person even doesn't know that he is in the prison, right? How can you give up when you don't know what's wrong? So there's no realization. So Prabhupada talks of, let me see if Prabhupada brings that out. Here, in this last part of here, Prabhupada talks about there are different kinds of consciousness. So in total, there are 5 levels of consciousness. And you can see that when you go out into the real world, and you can look at people, you can look at other living entities. One is a covered consciousness, which are like trees, plants, creepers, so forth. That's covered. That's called Avritta Chetana. Chetana is consciousness. Avritta means covered. It's fully covered. Avritta Chetana. Then there can be consciousness that's not covered, but it's extremely shrunk. That's called Sankuchit Chetana. Sankuchit means shrunk. Birds, aquatics, all these kind of animals. Then there is a budding consciousness. So now the next 3 all are human beings, but they're different. Budding consciousness, that's Mukulita Chetna. Budding consciousness is also human beings, but they're in a mode of ignorance. It's not as shrunk as an animal, but it's not like he's a self-realized soul either. Then comes a blossoming consciousness. So that is a level of a human being, which I said you can think of it as the person, the mirror covered by dust. That's also. And then there's a level of people whose consciousness is fully blossomed. Those are Krishna conscious human beings, God conscious people. That's Purna Vikshit consciousness, right? So, and more we engage in lust, the lower our consciousness becomes. If we really become extremely dull-headed, our next life, we will get the body of a tree or an animal, because in this life, we didn't take the opportunity of having a consciousness that could be blossomed. So that's the way to understand these 3 analogies. Okay, and now Krishna is yes.
No, Prabhuji, can you repeat the first 2 level of consciousness?
So first one is a covered consciousness, which is trees and plants, basically. That's what you're looking at. is called avrit cheta. It's avrit, it's completely covered. For example, when a tree, you break one of the stems, or you probably even cut it down. It's not like the tree starts crying or screaming for help. No, because the consciousness is very covered. The second one is contracted, shrunk consciousness. That is the animals. For example, a goat is in a slaughterhouse. The goat knows that the goat before me just got slaughtered. But this goat keeps thinking, oh my God, what a wonderful grass. Let me enjoy this. Because their consciousness is not developed. So those are the first two ones. The three are all human beings, budding, blossoming, and completely blossomed. Those are human beings, but different levels of human beings. Okay, so now what Krishna is going to do, let's read that verse. Thus the wise living entity's pure consciousness become covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Okay, this is a very important practical thing that Krishna is teaching us, right? Lust covers our knowledge. Our pure consciousness is covered by lust, becomes covered by lust. We know so many things, right? For example, we all read Bhagavad Gita, but when lust attacks us, we forget all that. That's the problem. I face that every day. Right? What does lust basically mean is when I want to satisfy myself independent of Krishna. That's lust. Desire to satisfy Krishna's senses is love. Desire to satisfy my own sense away from Krishna is lust. And where is that? Yes, there is this verse that I wanted to bring out. Atmendriya priti vancha tare balikam krishnendriya priti icha dhare premna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving the difference between lust and love. If you all don't have a Chaitanya Charitamrita at home, you should have it. It's a life and history of Mahaprabhu. Prabhupada stopped the publication of all his books just so that he could bring Chaitanya Charitamrita out. You all must have heard about it. There was a Chaitanya Charitamrita marathon. Prabhupada was in Los Angeles. He asked his disciples who were running the press there, how many books are you publishing every month? He said, the disciple was very proud. He was very happy to say, Prabhupada, we can do one book every 2 months. Prabhupada said, I want you to do the whole Chaitanya Charitamrita in 2 months, which is like what? It's 9 books now, but at that time there were more volumes. I think 16, there was a smaller book. And the devotee said, Prabhupada, that's impossible. Prabhupada hit his cane on the ground and said, impossible is a word in Food's dictionary. So if you don't have a Chaitanya Charitamrita at your house, you should have a set of it. We are coming close to Gaur Purnima. Our Chaitanya Charitamrita marathon is on. So if you don't have it, take one set. Let me know. I can send you one. So yes, so that's the verse I just wanted to bring out from Chaitanya Charitamrita. So yeah, it covers our consciousness. So again, be sure of that word lust. Lust doesn't just mean a sexual desire. Generally, in this world, when we look at from material perspective, lust is looked at, sexual desires. No. Any desire beyond the laws of scriptures is lust, right? And Krishna is saying it's our eternal enemy. It's an eternal enemy. It's always eternal. It's always there. So what does this do is it covers our knowledge. And you all might have noticed this. I have noticed this in my life. Whenever I have a desire to enjoy, my spiritual knowledge vanishes. It goes down. It doesn't look attractive anymore. So then there are, our shastras have a lot of stories that you can always connect with. One that I always remember about this is Vyasadeva had a student named Jaimini Rishi. One day, Jaimini, being very proud of himself, he went to Vyasadeva and said, Gurudev, I have conquered Kam. I am no more lusty ever. Okay? Vyasadeva smiles and says, okay, good. One day it's raining heavily. Somebody knocks at the door. It's night time. Somebody knocks at the door of Jaimini Rishi. He opens the door and he sees this beautiful girl standing there. And what happens? His spiritual knowledge vanishes. It doesn't look attractive anymore. He sees this beautiful girl and just and he invites her in, and so all that automatically that lust pops up, and then at the right moment that the girl turns into Vyasadeva and says, "See, you thought you were covered, you have conquered lust. You don't try to be in that proud thing." Right? So yes, humbling ourselves is very important to keep that in mind, that Daivi Hesha Gunamai Mam Maya Durattaye. Krishna is saying that in the 7th chapter, that this material energy is my energy. So if you try to overcome it artificially, you'll never be able to do it. Do your bhakti, channelize all your desires in Krishna consciousness, and automatically everything will be fine. Okay. Okay, now so once having told about that, now Krishna will tell where to find this lust. Where is it actually? And he tells us the senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of living entity and bewilders them. So now you might ask, why is Krishna revealing the hiding places of lust? Right? Prabhupada uses a military analogy. Where is that? Yeah, he's saying the enemy has captured different strategic positions in the body of the conditioned soul. Right? So he's using a military analogy. So Krishna is not just saying lust is bad. Right? So he's saying, if you want to defeat your enemy, you must know where it hides, how it operates, and all that. Those things you should know about it. So there are 3 strategic positions of lust. What are they? The senses. Now that's the entry point. Eyes, ears, tongue, skin, nose. Because they are the ones directly in contact with the sense objects. Right? So that's the entry point. The mind. Why is mind? Mind is a storehouse. As I might have mentioned this, if not, mind is nothing but a reservoir of all your desires which you have executed in the past. It's just collecting all of them. It's making its mind, oh, Prem-dham likes this. So whenever such an opportunity comes, it immediately tells, oh, Prem-dham, you like this, come on, go ahead and enjoy it. So the mind replays everything I have done in the past. So that's the mind. That's the storehouse. And now the intelligence, which is the most dangerous place, right? Prabhupada is saying, intelligence department becomes the capital of such lustful propensities. Right? Intelligence is the immediate next door neighbor of the spirit soul. Lusty intelligence influences the spirit soul to acquire the false ego and identify itself with matter, and thus with the mind and senses. So the intelligence becomes the capital of lust, as Prabhupada is telling us. This is the most dangerous level. So the intelligence is meant to decide right versus wrong. But when it is infected, it justifies desire. You can say examples of corrupted intelligence can be, everybody's doing it. Why can't I do it? Another thing could be, I deserve this. I do so much service. Why are these people not respecting me? Another thing is, we become proud. Oh, no, this won't affect my bhakti. Like I gave you the example of Jaimini Rishi. Right? So that's why, that's the intelligence is the most strongest and the dangerous post. So how does lust bewilder the soul? Right? Krishna is telling us the soul starts identifying with the mind and senses. Right? And it bewilders him. Living entity gets bewildered. The soul identifies with the mind and senses. Instead of thinking that I'm a servant of Krishna, it starts thinking I'm an enjoyer. This is meant for me to enjoy. I deserve this. Prabhupada quotes a verse from the 10th canto. This is a very important verse. Yasyatma buddhi kunapetri dhatuke swadhi kaltradishu bhaumajyati yatirtha buddhi shalile na karichet chaneshva bhigyeshu sa eva gokhara. So what it says, let's read the proper translation. A human being who identifies this body made of 3 elements with his self, who considers the byproducts of the body to be his kinsmen, who considers the land of birth worshipable, and who goes to the place of pilgrimage simply to take a bath rather than meet men of transcendental knowledge there, is to be considered like a cow or an ass. So this verse diagnoses misidentification, because that's what Krishna is talking about. So Prabhupada brings out this verse. I am this body. These people are mine. I was born in India. I'm an Indian. I was born in, some part of India. That part is mine. The land is worshipable. All that is misidentification. So what to do? To guard your senses, live a regulated life, avoid unnecessary exposures. Don't try to test your luck and say, oh, let me see how strong is my bhakti. I'll expose myself to all my desires and see how I can stand strong. No, don't try to do that. Avoid unnecessary exposure. Purify the mind. Chanting replaces your mental imagery. Okay, so keep chanting. And educate the intelligence. How do you educate your intelligence? By regular Shastric reading, associating with devotees, and asking, whatever activity you're doing, does it help me increase my remembrance of Krishna? Bhakti doesn't fight lust directly. It just starves the lust and it replaces it. Yes, Sandeep Prabhu.
Prabhu, you said that intelligence corrupted is the highest problem. But isn't that the mind corrupts, but intelligence is like the discriminatory, thing that actually
Yeah,
can change the mind, it can override the mind, right?
yeah.
So corruption doesn't happen in the intelligence itself, right? Because it's intelligence is a tool at soul's disposal to use it correctly to kind of control the mind.
Yeah, but one thing I also highlighted, intelligence is closest to the soul. So the intelligence has the capacity to influence your soul directly. Right? And the reason is their intelligence, it justifies this, and it also philosophically presents the desires to such an extent that you as a soul start accepting them. That is why I was calling it dangerous. Mind is just a repository. It's just a collection of thoughts. For example, I've given this probably, if I go on Google and whenever I put the word F in there, it immediately populates it at Facebook. That's my mind doing it. If I don't go on Facebook for a month, after that, if I put F there, it will not show me Facebook. It won't auto-populate, right? However, you as a person can still go to Facebook. So when I'm saying you is just you are the intelligence. So the intelligence has this capacity to justify an activity, to philosophize an activity, to philosophize your desire. That's why it's a dangerous position. Your mind does not have that capacity to justify things or philosophize them. That's only what your intelligence can do. That's why it's a dangerous one.
Right, Prabhu. So it's more. So what you're saying is like intelligence actually does not corrupt, but it attaches to corrupt things. That way, the soul gets bewildered. Is that what?
Yes, because as I said, your intelligence is meant to decide right versus wrong. But if suddenly it's been corrupted, then it will start justifying the wrong thing.
Okay.
Right? And then it becomes a problem, right? That is why knowledge, if you just have knowledge, you can actually misuse that knowledge also. You can read all the Shastras. There are a lot of people in this world who misuse Bhagavad Gita to present it as something else. So just by knowing Shastra, it won't, right? So you also have to connect that intelligence of yours through doing bhakti-related activities. That's why I was mentioning chanting is important. Association with devotees is important. Being very introspective is important. That
Right.
will fix that intelligence of yours, of ours. Okay. Yes, Binu, you had your hand up.
How does intelligence gets corrupted?
So, okay, I'll come to that. I think in the second last verse, Krishna will give the hierarchy of these things: sense, mind, intelligence, and self, soul. However, how it gets corrupted, I'll talk about that. We'll come to that. Okay, so let's go to the next verse. We have 3 more verses. I'm hoping to finish it in the next 10 minutes. So let's just do that. Therefore, Arjun, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. So now, out of the 3, senses, mind, and intelligence, Which one is easy to control? Senses, right? If you're walking on the street and your favorite donut shop comes in, you can change your path. You can close your eyes. So one thing I wanted to highlight here, whenever Krishna uses the word tasmat, you should connect it to what he has being said in the past. The word tasmat means therefore, because therefore is more of an outcome word. That I told you XYZ, therefore you should do this. So whenever the word tasmat comes, always be careful and remind yourself that I should connect this verse to what Krishna has spoken in the past. So that's the word tasmat. It means therefore. Right? So it's connecting to the earlier verses we have read. Lust is the enemy. It sits in the mind, intelligence, and senses. It bewilders the soul. So since lust hides in this system, the first line of defense must be the senses. That's why Krishna uses the word therefore. Another phrase that Krishna uses, in the very beginning, right? So in the very beginning doesn't mean, it means, yeah, it can mean only childhood, right? Childhood also good, but it means beginning of your spiritual seriousness. The moment you understand that this is urgent, the first thing you should do is control your senses. Spiritual life fails not because lust is wrong, but because regulation starts late or it's half-hearted. That should be the first line of defense that you should go with. Controlling your senses, not trying to obliterate them, not trying to make them to zero, just regulating them. Krishna says this in the 6th chapter. Yuktahara viharasya yukta chetasya bodhasa. That control your eating, sleeping, recreation, control them. So that's what from the very beginning means. So it's a bottom-up approach. Senses, mind, intelligence, soul. So Krishna is asking us to start right from the bottom, senses. It's just entries through the senses. So that is why our bhakti begins with senses. Regulated eating. We would eat only prasada. Regulated hearing. We hear Shravan, classes. Regulated speech. You don't necessarily just go and start speaking random stuff, nonsense, all that, and just talking about all gossiping. No. Regulated habits. So that's why everything is starting from senses. Regulated does not mean repression. It means redirection. Okay. And Krishna says, great symbol of sin. Lust is a very great symbol. He's using a strong language. It's great because it destroys our knowledge. It destroys self-realization. As I was telling you, when our lust increases, spiritual knowledge and our interest in spiritual life goes down. Okay. And then Gyan and Vigyan are the word Krishna is using. Gyan and Vijnana. Gyan is knowledge. Vigyan is scientific knowledge. Prabhupada is saying it, or self-realization. So there is, Gyan is theoretical knowledge. Okay. I'm not this body, I'm a soul. Many people have Gyan. However, not a lot of people have Vigyan, which is lived, realized knowledge. I'm a servant of Krishna. My happiness is in service. Right? Very little people have Vigyan. But lust destroys both of them. Okay? And Prabhupada is bringing out here, lust is only the perverted reflection of the love of God, which is natural for every living entity. Right? So this is crucial for us. Love of God is God-centered. Lust is inward, it's selfish. So, yeah, just those things. Okay, let's look at the next one. This verse tells us the hierarchy. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind. And he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Right? Where is that? Right? This is the hierarchy that Krishna is telling us. Sense objects, senses, mind, intelligence, and soul. Okay? That's the hierarchy being told to us here. So mind is linked to the senses. The senses perceive an object and relay that information to the mind. The mind responds to that object by saying, I like it, I do not like it. I want it, I do not want it. The mind is accepting or rejecting. That's the only function of the mind. Simply to perceive things through the senses and to react. The intelligence is more subtle than the mind. The intelligence of the purpose of the intelligence is to discriminate. If the mind sees a beautiful object, through the senses it thinks, I want it. Now the intelligence starts figuring out ways to get that object. So Krishna is introducing the hierarchy because in previous verses, lust is identified as the enemy. Its location was exposed. Now Krishna is explaining who controls whom. Now, subtler than the intelligence is our false ego. So, what was your question, Binu? You were asking me a question. Sorry, I forgot that.
Yeah, how is intelligence corrupted?
Okay, so right now, this hierarchy, as I was showing you, this is the way we all are. Sense objects, senses. Sense objects tell the senses, oh, you want us. Senses tell the mind, I want this. The mind tells the intelligence, I want this, and the intelligence starts figuring out ways to get that thing. It's corrupted because this hierarchy has been messed up. The original hierarchy should be the soul should tell the intelligence, this is what I want. The intelligence should tell the mind, okay, this is what we are looking for. The mind should accordingly guide the senses to engage with the sense objects. So our intelligence is corrupted because the hierarchy has been reversed. The intelligence is listening to the mind instead of the soul. And that is what we all are trying to do here, is strengthen the intelligence, which happens when you read Shastras regularly. If you read the Bhagavad Gita every day, I assure you, your intelligence will become very strong. You won't get affected by the desires that your mind presents to you. Then your soul will tell the intelligence what it needs, and then eventually it will guide the lower objects to behave in that appropriate way. So that's why our intelligence is corrupted, because it's been reversed. We are listening more to the senses than to the soul. Yes, Sandeep.
So it's the same chart. I don't know, maybe somebody explained it in a different way, in some other class. Is that the senses feed the mind, right? And mind is not just brain, right? Like the storehouse, but it's more like the, the decision maker here. But what happens is like, it the intelligence is the one who actually tells the mind, okay, do this, do that. But if the mind is super corrupted, right, then even though intelligence wants something, it can't actually force the mind to do it. So for example, like a drunkard, right, they know in their intelligence that, okay, I don't want to drink, but mind is like out of their control.
Yeah.
And soul wants something, intelligence wants something. Intelligence has the power to tell the mind that, okay, this is not right, but still the mind does it.
Yeah, it's
In other
corrupt.
words, mind is the corrupt entity here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's been reversed, right? Your mind is dictating to the intelligence what's to be done. So your mind has actually become stronger than the intelligence. Yes.
Yes.
Did I answer your question, Binu? Did that make sense?
Looking at this hierarchy, it appears to me that mine is the superpower here, like the most strongest, because at the end of the day, mind can influence the intelligence.
You can say mind is strong. However, you also have to understand mind does not have a capacity of its own to discriminate. That capacity only lies with the intelligence. Mind is only just accepting or rejecting. I want this, I don't want this. However, that desire, just like a child, he can lay flat on in the middle of the mall because it wants something. However, a parent, being the intelligence, can decide and discriminate. Should I get this for my child? Will it help him? Will it not help him? That only the intelligence can do. Yes,
Yeah.
Mind is very strong, like the child who just starts crying wildly in the middle of the mall. However, the intelligence has the capacity to discriminate.
So when we talk about purification, it has to happen at mind level more so than any other level.
Your mind doesn't need to be purified. Your intelligence has to be purified because your intelligence has the capacity to discriminate. When your intelligence starts making the right decisions and telling your mind to do them, then automatically your mind will listen. Yes, you have to control your mind also. I'm not saying it's not to be done. You have to strengthen your mind in the sense that if any sense desire comes, your mind should have the capacity to say, no, I don't want this, because intelligence has told me this is not good for our bhakti practices. But your intelligence has to be strengthened also. Just doing the mind won't help you. Okay, we are at 8:30. I'll just finish off the last verse, and if there are questions, we can pick them up next week, or you can text me or put it on the group if you have questions. And lastly, Krishna gives the way how you can do it. Knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence. O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence. See, Krishna is saying, learn to control the mind by what? By your intelligence, by deliberate spiritual intelligence. And thus, by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Situate yourself on the spiritual platform using your intelligence. Krishna is saying, by using your intelligence, know yourself to be the soul. Right? And then bring your mind also on the spiritual platform. Then one goes beyond the pull of the lust. Right? We then experience the higher taste, higher happiness. How do we situate mind on Krishna? Is by thinking about him. Right? In Preeti, in love, when we fall in love with somebody, we are always thinking about that person. When we fall in love with Krishna, our attraction automatically goes to him. Right? So use that capacity to put your attention, to focus your attention on the right things, on Krishna consciousness, and use your intelligence to contemplate on Krishna. That way, it will become purified. Okay. Yeah. The only lasting solution to our unhealthy desires is purification. We are souls who are eternally Satchidanand and who naturally desire a pleasure. Desire is not the problem. The misdirected desire is the problem. We are meant to find pleasure by lovingly connecting to Krishna, right? So we need to purify our desires by redirecting them from the worldly things to Krishna. However, for our purification is to understand, don't become too much obsessed with gratification of our senses, nor with repressing them. As I said, the goal is not to be detached from things. The goal is to be attached to Krishna. So absorption in Krishna helps us relish the higher happiness, and that triggers the realization that worldly pleasures are not very important for me. And this realization inspires us to long for Krishna more than the worldly things. And, okay, sum total of the chapter. Okay, I'll stop here. I know we are already 3 minutes above. I don't want to keep you all waiting. Please, if you have any questions, please send them to me, write them down. We can discuss in the next class. But yeah, please, if you have any questions, please bring them up. Okay.